What is going on, guys? We are live on YouTube and we are live on Twitter. Luke Bugoni joining us, our Cowboys.Walter Picks creator. Luke, how are you doing today, man? Very excited to have you on. And we got football tonight, Luke. We have football tonight. I'm very excited to talk with you. Most people that know us as creators these days, Luke, don't even know that we had a podcast together for over a year. Let's try to go live on TikTok right now, Luke. I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
With any echo, then we'll scratch it out. But I am very excited to talk. Yarijma, how's it going? Welcome to the live. Love the player props today. Yeah, Luke, we got 2 player props today in the first game, not usually in the primetime games.
Mm-hmm. I haven't had a chance to see them. So who'd you got? I haven't checked today.
Well, we're not going to share both. We might share one. We might share one free player prop on this stream, but there are 2 props for tonight's game. I have a feeling you're going to like both of them a lot, Luke. But we are live on TikTok right now. If you're watching live on TikTok, guys, let me know if the sound quality is coming in okay, because this is our first time this season going live on TikTok and YouTube and Twitter all at the same time. So let me know in the TikTok chat if this is working for you. Ben, good to see you in the chat as well. But yeah, Luke, usually on the primetime games, we have just 1 or sometimes even 0 props. Like really how the algorithm works is either does find exploitable props or it doesn't. And we're not going to force props just for the sake of forcing props. But tonight we got 2, which is very exciting. Yeah. In last season, week 1 was a very, very good week for the player prop algorithm in the Walter Picks app. So I'm feeling pretty excited about it this week 1. A lot of the times, week 1. All right, I'm joining the.
There we go.
And I'm going to turn my sound down here.
Same here.
I think there might be a little feedback. Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see, maybe if I turn this down. Try turning your computer volume down, Luke. See if that works.
Yeah, all the way down.
I still think that it might be there might be some feedback. If you're watching live on YouTube, guys, can you hear some feedback right now? Is there any feedback that's coming across to you guys? We're testing out a little new system right now. Nobody's saying any feedback, so I guess we're chilling, Luke. But what most people don't know, Luke, is that we had a podcast together for over a year. Literally over a year. We posted every single week for over a year. When I was a junior and senior in college, you were a freshman, sophomore in college. So it's very, very exciting to hop back on the live with you, Luke. It's been a crazy journey over the last 3 years, and I'm so pumped that we get to make content together again. It's been a lot of fun already. How are you feeling so far, your first month as a content creator?
I'm loving this. I mean, getting on here immediately felt like we were back on our podcast, and those were fun. But now it's crazy to see, because when we did those podcasts toward the end, you were building Walter, and now Walter hit 100K yesterday on TikTok. It's going great. I mean, I'm loving this first month so far. I think I can say that. I think many other content creators would say the same. So this has just been a blast. As for tonight, I am so excited yet so nervous, because my team, the Cowboys, never played, I think, week 1 recently as the first game, and going against Super Bowl champs, a whole new defense with a lot of new pieces. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And then the offense is going to be, I think, similar to last year, a lot of moving the ball. So, absolutely thrilled so far with the content creation and, with week 1 tonight. I mean, how could you not be excited? We've waited so long. We've been making content now for a month of just anticipation for the season.
Yeah, this is the best time of year, Luke, because right now, everything we have said this offseason is true, right? Everything we know that's going to happen, it's going to happen. And then literally 24 hours from now, half the stuff we thought was going to be true will be wrong. And like 72 hours from now, the whole world will be on fire and we will have no idea what was right and what was wrong. Half of the players taken in the first 3 rounds will do terrible. And there's going to be a bunch of players taking in the late rounds that do awful. We're going to get to as many start-sit questions as we possibly can on this live. We're going to be live till 2:30 Eastern, guys, so for about an hour. But I like this question because it does involve a player tonight. And I've seen a lot of start-sit questions about Dak Prescott. Tonight, I posted a video earlier, I think yesterday, saying one of the players I will not bench this week is Jalen Hurts. I would play Jalen Hurts over Dak Prescott. This question is Lamar Jackson or Dak Prescott. I think that one's pretty easy. Like, you agree, Lamar Jackson over Dak this week?
Yeah, I'd go Lamar Jackson against the Raiders this week. I know Dak is fully cleared with the shoulder, but I'm still a little scared by it. And, it's week 1, his first time back since week 5 last year, since the gruesome ankle injury. So for me, that's an easy one. I go Lamar. I'm, like you mentioned, I'm a little eerie of Dak, kind of not sitting him to most quarterbacks this week. But, when maybe like an iffy guy like a Jalen Hurts, a mid-round guy you drafted, I'm sitting him this week in favor of maybe someone like him, Stafford, Ryan Tannehill, someone like that.
Yeah, you cannot bench Jalen Hurts in either the first 2 weeks. He gets the Falcons in week 1, Luke. Just such a mouth-watering matchup for Jalen Hurts in week 1. It's going to be so amazing because I don't think we'll really know if Jalen Hurts is going to be the real deal in terms of being a late-round fantasy football pick this season until like week 5.
Yeah.
Because he has some real matchups weeks 3 through week 5. But we're going to see the upside of Jalen Hurts as soon as week 1 against the Atlanta Falcons, a defense that possibly somehow got worse this offseason. Talking to Andrew, our Falcons.Walter Picks creator, he was not very confident that the Falcons defense was going to be better than it was last season. It was a bottom 5 defense, passing defense in the league. And then you add in the fact how much they throw the ball.
Yeah.
Like, the Eagles-Falcons game could turn into a shootout very, very fast. I want players in that game in my DraftKings and FanDuel lineups this week. I'm stacking Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts, Calvin Ridley, the reverse stack there. I like all of those in DraftKings and FanDuel. I think you got to be feeling really good about Jalen Hurts. But I like this question a lot too. What about Tom Brady versus Jalen Hurts? Because Tom Brady's in a pretty good spot. How are you feeling, Luke, about the Cowboys defense? Do they have any hope at all to stop the Tampa Bay Buccaneers tonight?
Not a lot. No, I don't have a ton of hope in that defense. As you mentioned with that Falcons defense, we actually go and sign 2 of their players in DeMonte KZ and Keanu Neal because, Dan Quinn comes over as their old head coach and is now our defensive coordinator. But I do think they'll be better. But in terms of that question specifically, you got to go Jalen Hurts. I think the rushing upside is going to be too high to turn down. And as Sam just said, the matchup with the Falcons, it's going to be a shootout. And this is a new Eagles regime with a new head coach. They're going to want to see what Jalen Hurts can do. I think he's going to come out and just air it out in week 1. He's got the weapons to do it now with Devonta Smith. Dallas Goedert's going to slide into that tight end 1 role. Yeah. I think he will. And you got Jalen Reagor, first-round pick from last year. This Eagles team has a lot to figure out. And I think that's week 1 is a perfect time to do it. I mean, week 1 in the NFL is always crazy. So, and then with this Cowboys defense, listen, tonight's going to be really tough. I mean, you got Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown. I think that's better than the Cowboys trio, if I'm being honest. And they're coming off a Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl in their own stadium. I mean, it's Tom Brady. I think the Cowboys, they're 8.5-point underdogs tonight. Yeah. I think they'll be in the game. I think it'll be closer than people think. The defense will look better than people think, but they're still not going to be able, I think, to come up with stops when it matters most.
Yeah, the thing about Jalen Hurts is not only does he have this passing upside in week 1 that he won't have every week. Like, against a good passing defense, there's going to be concerns about Jalen Hurts passing. He was 52% completion percentage a season ago. There's so many similarities between his rookie season and Josh Allen's rookie season. I know people don't like the Hurts-Allen comparison now because Josh Allen's obviously good now. He's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL now. But his rookie season, he was atrocious in terms of his throwing accuracy, as was Jalen Hurts. But Jalen Hurts has the legs. He averaged 60 rushing yards a game. He averaged almost 10 fantasy points a game just on the ground last season, Luke. And that is the amazing floor of Jalen Hurts. I think that's the reason you can start Jalen Hurts over Tom Brady with some confidence. But that being said, I mean, Tom Brady could easily throw up 300 yards and 3+ touchdowns today. I was just reading a tweet. I don't know if you saw this one, Luke, today. Just some crazy Tom Brady stats heading into his 22nd season. He's older. He's been in the league longer than Trey Lance has been alive. He has more Super Bowl victories than every other team in the NFL. Not a single organization has many Super Bowl wins as he has. And there's not a single player left. He was in the 2000 draft class or the 2001 draft class. Not a single player is left from that draft class. But there's actually not a single player left from 2002 or 2003 either. So just the longevity of Tom Brady, absolutely insane. And it's going to be really interesting to me. I think the most interesting thing about this game tonight, Luke, is are the Buccaneers going to live up to this hype? Because there's so much hype for the reigning Super Bowl champions that they are number 2 in Super Bowl odds heading into the season. And that could change pretty quick with a loss to the Dallas Cowboys in their first game of the season. Do you think there's any chance the Cowboys can pull off this upset?
I think there is a chance it's going to obviously have to fall on Dak Prescott. And like I mentioned, with that defense, they're going to have to make some stops where I think they won't. But, they're going to be able to move the ball. I think this Bucs defense, yes, they looked fantastic in the Super Bowl. But at the same time, they struggled a bit in the regular season last year. They struggled week 1 versus Saints. They struggled. I think they were a 7-5 football team at one point. So this Cowboys team can certainly come in. I mean, in this NFC East, every win is going to count. Like every win for every NFL team counts. But the Washington football team won the East last year with 7 wins. I mean, so Cowboys can come in tonight and pull off what wouldn't be now a shocking upset. It's what it's being framed as. It would be amazing for this Cowboys team, especially for Mike McCarthy's confidence and just the overall young defense's confidence. But like I said, I don't think it's likely they come in tonight and go in. I think Brady is going to have them too prepared. Bruce Arians, I've read some stories about it. He's got them fully, I guess, the mindset of 2021's in the past. We don't care about that anymore. 2022 is now, and you have the perfect quarterback to embrace that mindset. So.
Yeah, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization, including Bruce Arians, has said all the right things and have done all the right things this offseason. Yeah. And you've heard it 1,000 times at this point. The fact that they're bringing everyone back from a season ago is truly remarkable and just unheard of in today's NFL. Like that does not happen, but they are kind of an older team. So like that aspect of it is interesting to me. And they also are relying on a 44-year-old quarterback, like who is at least 3 years older than like the next oldest guy that's actually playing in the NFL right now. I think that there is more risk to the Buccaneers than the general public is seeing right now. But yeah, I'm expecting them to win tonight, and I won't be surprised if we see a huge Tom Brady game. The thing about Tom Brady's situation right now is the receivers. And we got to talk about Antonio Brown, Luke. We got to talk about Antonio Brown because Antonio Brown, the reports about him this offseason have been the scariest reports coming out of all of Tampa Bay Buccaneers reports. He is apparently in much better form than we saw him in last season. And last season, when he played for the Bucs, he led them in air yards and was really the most used receiver on the team.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about Antonio Brown heading into this season? I tried to draft him in every single draft that I possibly could, and somehow I only ended up with him in 2 out of my 6 high-stakes leagues because he just kept going earlier and earlier and earlier. He was going in several of my high-stakes leagues. He went in round 6, and Mike Evans and Godwin were going like round 3 and 4. Are you in on the Antonio Brown hype heading into this game and in this season?
I am fully. I think especially when you evaluate where the other Bucs receivers were taken. I mean, Mike Evans was going in the 3rd round. He had the fewest career targets last year with a career high in touchdowns. That's just screaming regression. Chris Godwin didn't turn into the target machine we thought. I think we could see a bigger year from him if he's fully healthy. But him and Tom Brady they've been buddies forever. Like when Brady advocated for him to sign with the Patriots and he played for, I think, that one game versus the Miami Dolphins, Brady loves AB. He loves targeting him. And I think, last year he came on, I'm not sure what week he came on, but the two, it's hard to come onto a team mid-season and make a huge impact. But now they've had the full offseason together. We've seen all the offseason news. The hype is certainly up right now. And I think he can live up to that hype. Like this guy is a top fantasy wide receiver for a number of years. He's still talented. He seems to be level-headed now, completely just kind of focusing on football and ready to go. I think he's in for a huge season. Even in round 6, I still think that's decent value.
So I'm showing the props for tonight for the receiving yards for the Cowboys. And I want to hear your thoughts on these 3. And I know you said you haven't actually looked at the props that were identified by Walter that are in the App Store in Walter Picks app right now. But these are the lines, the lines from Prize Picks that I saw most recently. Amari Cooper, over under 65.5 yards. CeeDee Lamb, 61.5. Michael Gallup, 46.5. I haven't heard very much chatter about Michael Gallup, but Michael Gallup's this guy that could be a number 1 receiver on a lot of teams, but he's clearly number 3 on this team. Yeah. What do you think about these 3 lines, Luke? Is there one that you like more than the others?
I love the Amari Cooper 65.5 because we've yet to see, I've been I got the CD jersey on, been a full CD hype guy this entire offseason. I think he's going to have a massive season. But we've yet to see, obviously, Dak and CD have only played 5 games together, but we're yet to see why CeeDee Lamb could overtake Amari Cooper as Dak's number 1 target. Dak loves targeting Cooper. I don't know where this sudden hate was. I know Cooper could be inconsistent at times and, always something with his hamstring or groin, whatever it may be, but he's fully healthy tonight. Dak's ready to go. I love 65 over 65.5 because he's just going to see the ball a lot. The Cowboys are going to have to throw the ball. I'm anticipating they're going to be playing from behind. No Zach Martin, so the run game probably won't be as effective as Cowboys fans would hope for or fantasy owners would hope for. So Dak's going to probably have to throw the ball between 40 and 50 times tonight. I mean, he averaged 44 attempts a game last year in the 5 games he played. So I love the Amari prop. Gallup is really a hit or miss. He had 2 games last year where he went over 100 yards. It's kind of like he's a big deep threat. He's a vertical threat. Right. And if he connects on one of those, that's the beauty of player props. All it takes is really one play. But then I see people on my timeline saying, I can't wait for CD to go for 8, 150, 2 touchdowns tonight. So, I think the safest one is the Amari Cooper one. CD looks tasty, but let's see Dak and CD play now a little bit. This is CD's second year, haven't played together since week 5 of last year. Kind of want to see that come into fruition before you really kind of put your money on it.
Yeah, I've been saying all offseason long, I love CeeDee Lamb. I like CeeDee Lamb more than Amari Cooper in fantasy football. I like CeeDee Lamb more than Amari Cooper tonight, but I also was saying all offseason, Amari Cooper is the best value on this team. He was going consistently in almost every single draft. Amari Cooper was going 5 to 10 picks after CeeDee Lamb, specifically on ESPN. The ESPN rankings were so atrocious this season that it was so easy to get Amari Cooper like deep into the 4th round of drafts. That in there you go, like week 1 player prop lines, Amari Cooper projected for more yards than CeeDee Lamb. Like it's just so clearly an amazing value. But CeeDee Lamb, Luke, he averaged 86 yards a game in his 5 games with Dak, where he was getting at least 5 targets. He went over 59 yards in all of those games. Like CeeDee Lamb to me is a lock this season, and like the sky is the limit for CeeDee Lamb. I will not be surprised if CeeDee Lamb outproduces Amari Cooper this season, but I think they're both going to be 1,000-yard receivers, and I'm very excited to watch both of them tonight.
I think it's certainly possible. I mean, Gallup and Amari both did it in 2018. Those two were a monster, and no discredit to Michael Gallup, but CeeDee Lamb is the better receiver of the two. Now, as you mentioned, averaged 86 yards in the 5 games with Dak, and even when he went down, he was still decent with Andy Dalton, and he was still a rookie wide receiver. We see those receivers struggle all the time. Jerry Jeudy struggled a lot last year. He's high up on people's boards this year. I mean, you go through it. My first video I put out was talking about how CD is going to be a top 8 receiver this year. I went through some second-year receivers that went through massive jumps. Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Devonta Adams, all were just so much better in their second years. It takes time to adjust in the NFL when you're coming as a stud receiver in college. It takes time to adjust. And CeeDee Lamb, I think, will make that adjustment. And like you said, I like both of them tonight.
Yeah,
Amari,
this doesn't need to be an either-or situation. Just go with both. And I would be honestly very shocked if at least one of Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb's prop didn't hit tonight, and easily both could. But the Dallas Cowboy we haven't talked about yet, Luke, is Ezekiel Elliott and Zach Martin out tonight with the COVID protocols. Just a very bad sign, by the way. I think the COVID situation in the NFL this season is going to be just as, if not more prevalent than last season in terms of players missing games. It's going to be tough in fantasy. You should have a backup plan in fantasy football for every single player. And your league should talk about just what that system is. But Zach Martin is out. Zach Martin's not going to be in your fantasy lineups, but Ezekiel Elliott's going to be in everyone's fantasy lineup. How are you feeling about him tonight? The Bucs had a very good run defense, top 5 run defense in the league last season. Are you nervous about him in this game? Like, where do you think he finishes tonight in terms of rushing yards?
I've gotten some questions on if you should start him. I think you're 100% starting him because the volume is going to be there. And it's tough to really predict because it's going to be about game scripts with this Cowboys team. And if the Bucs come out firing early and this defense looks terrible and they go up 7-0, 14-0, 10-0 early, then we could see Zeke start to fade out. But I do think Zeke has a role in the passing game. He always has. I think that's been an underrated part of his game. I think he's taken off some weight this offseason. He's ready to go. So I'm feeling, not an RB1 type week, not 150, 2 touchdowns, because like you said, that defensive front for the Bucs is really, really strong. However, the volume is going to be there, and that's what you really look for in fantasy football. If you're getting a running back who's going to get 15 to 20 carries, which he will see tonight, I think he'll 100% see over 15 carries, could see 3 or 4 targets out of that backfield. So I'm confident about Zeke tonight. But like I said, probably not going to give you the RB1 stats that you drafted him for, but he's still a solid starter for this week.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing about Ezekiel Elliott, you don't overthink week 1, guys. Like you got to start your first, second, and third round picks automatically. If you took them in the first 3 rounds, well, why did you take them in the first 3 rounds? Exactly. If you're not just don't overthink your first 3 picks in fantasy. I said all offseason, I think you lose your league in the first 3 rounds, and don't make it harder than it already is. Start your first 3 picks in fantasy football, no questions asked. And Zeke should have been your first pick if you got him. So start Ezekiel Elliott. But yeah, the exciting part about Zeke all offseason was the improved offensive line. So the Zach Martin thing is a little scary, but at least he'll be back week 2. It's not like he's injured, so he should be back week 2. But Zeke also should be involved as a receiver. I think 3 to 4 targets is very well within the range of outcomes for Zeke. I think you could see as many as 5 to 6 targets. This is Dak's first game back after an injury, a bad injury, but also like all preseason, he's kind of been waiting to come back from this small shoulder injury that they really took an abundance of caution with. Would you be that surprised if we see Dak come out in the first 3 drives, give Zeke at least 1 target in all of those drives? It wouldn't be.
No, not at all. I think Dak, I mean, based on those Hard Knock episodes where Dak was just visibly angry, he wasn't playing in practice, I think he's going to come out, he'll call audibles, he's going to do what he kind of wants because he's been out for so long. He looks so ready to play. So I think he's going to come out just kind of slinging around a little bit. So that obviously plays to Zeke's advantage, like coming out of the backfield. Then they get down to the red zone. Zeke inside the 5, like there's a good chance he's going to score. And all it takes is that 1 touchdown. And all of a sudden it's worth your start. So I think, this Cowboys offense is going to come out firing. It's week 1. It's exciting. It's the NFL opener. You're going against the champs. There's really no pressure on the Cowboys tonight, considering they're such heavy underdogs now. So, and you're playing in the worst division in football. Everyone already thinks you're bad to begin with. So,
the case for Ezekiel Elliott in the first round. I was taking Zeke 6th overall in like a lot of drafts. I did over 450 underdog drafts, which is honestly embarrassing to say out loud, but I'm very excited to see ultimately how I do and if I can get a top 10 finish in some of these tournaments because I maxed out entries in the underdog tournaments. But I was taking Zeke pretty consistently at 6 overall, and he fell there very frequently in drafts, like very, very frequently. You were able to get Zeke at 5 or 6 overall. And the reason for Zeke in those top 6 picks, the reason that I felt good about taking him there, he has obviously the great rushing floor. He has the receiving volume that you need to be a top 2 running back in fantasy football. But above all of that, Luke, it was the touchdown upside. He has insane touchdown upside on an offense that has a legit chance to be top 3 in points scored this season. And we might not see it tonight because they are going up against a very good Buccaneers defense, but against the Giants this season, like we can see Zeke do very, very well in those games in the NFC East, other than the Washington football team. I won't be surprised at all if we see Zeke score like 6 total touchdowns against the Eagles and Giants this season. And that's already more than some guys will score that were going in the first round. So I like Zeke a lot. I won't be surprised at all when he scores a touchdown tonight.
He's the locked-in goal line back. I mean, some people think Tony Pollard is actually better than Zeke. That's a whole nother conversation. But Zeke is going to get the carries in the red zone. That's where he thrives. It's, kind of where he builds his momentum. And then also, talking about drafting him, in the video I made yesterday about Sam and I being in the same league, I had the 4th overall pick. I went with Zeke over Derrick Henry, and that was a pretty tough decision. But Derrick Henry, beside the point, doesn't really catch the ball. I drafted Zeke because of that kind of receiving upside. And I really strongly believe he's in for a bounce-back season. Yes, you can look at the numbers. There aren't many cases where running backs bounce back. But I think the situation was just so poor last year with a 3rd-string quarterback. I think he played with 4 different quarterbacks last year, 3rd-string offensive lineman, a rookie head coach. You just weren't very good. It's tough. He had some fumbling issues, which he never had in the past. It was just a tough year overall. I think he's absolutely primed for a bounce back. Maybe people kind of forgot about him a little bit, and we'll see the real Zeke come back this year.
Yeah, 100%. I'm excited to see it. You got to remember the context of his last season. The whole Cowboys team. People have forgotten the context all offseason. The offensive line went from a top 5 offensive line to insanely injured. 3 to 4 of the offensive linemen were out every single game. Dak obviously was hurt, but Zeke himself was also hurt. There's so much working against them that now is not working against them. So you have to take that context into account because the Tony Pollard over Zeke people just were based on the eye test alone last season. You can see where that's coming from, but you got to take the context into account. So I think Pollard's good, by the way, but he's not Ezekiel Elliott, and he's not going to be getting the volume that Zeke, who is still a top 2 paid running back in the league for many years to come. I'm not worried about his workload. I got a good question here in the TikTok chat. Yo, Sam, when is the trade analyzer scores going to be updated in the Walter Picks app? Well, first of all, Luke, I got to say, I am astounded by how many trades that I have seen occur before the season has even started. Like the trading before the season, this is some true fantasy football grinders. If you are trading after your draft, but before the first game, the trade scores will be updated every single Tuesday morning. So the next update for the trade analyzer will be Tuesday morning. And after week 1, this is really when you got to start like pursuing the trades and making sure you're using the trade analyzer in the Walter Picks app to make sure you're not getting absolutely crushed in your trades. That's really like, I don't really use the trade analyzer to say, yes, I should do this trade or no, I shouldn't. Yeah. I really use it mostly to make sure that I'm at least in the right ballpark of the trade, because the last thing you want is to get completely crushed in terms of trades. And it gives us a consistent score for every player based on their usage and their projected fantasy points and their past fantasy points. So it really is like a consistent way to value players. So that's when the trade analyzer will be updated. Luke, you sound like you think the Buccaneers will win tonight, but this is why I like the spreads. This is why I like spreads, because there's a 7.5 spread was like 2 days ago. I've seen it as high as 9.5. Yeah, I've seen a 9.5 point spread for this game. Buccaneers favored over the Dallas Cowboys. With the spread, Luke, how are you feeling, and which side would you take in terms of the spread?
I would favor toward the Cowboys at plus 8.5. 7.5 get a bit eerie, but at plus 8.5, listen, this Cowboys team, we talked about it. It's everything is different this season. Everything has to change. I mean, it's a lot of new coaches, so many new pieces on defense. I think they added 8 new defensive players in the offseason. Dak's healthy. The offensive line. I mean, Leo Collins didn't play a snap last year. Zach Martin struggled, although he's going to miss tonight because of COVID. But Tyron Smith struggled with injuries last year. It's week 1. I mean, like, I don't know. I just think that's such a high line. And even the Cowboys last year, you look at the weeks Dak did play. They go down 20 points. And then all of a sudden the offense just turns into another gear. Bucs could take a 28-7 lead in this game. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Dak makes it a 28-24 game within a quarter, because that's how electric this Cowboys offense can be if they are moving the ball well. And I guess, like we said earlier, Dak is going to come out firing. He's fired up. He is ready to go. He just wants to play some football. So I would take the Cowboys at plus 8.5. Once you get to that 7.5, even plus 7, then it starts to get a little eerie.
Yeah, the line I'm seeing right now is 9. So I think most lines probably out there right now, if you're listening, is a 9-point spread. And I think I would agree with you, Luke. I think I personally would take the points. I think this is a really well-set spread. Obviously, they're very good at setting the spreads. This is why we don't have a spread tool in the app. We have a player prop tool in the app, because those are just much more exploitable, and those lines just are not as sharp. But 9 points, and I agree that, like, I feel like most of the time, since there's like a huge public following for the Cowboys, that their spreads are usually unfavorable. But this is like the one example going up against the former champs. So much hype around the Buccaneers right now, and it surely might be warranted. But 9 points for a team, like we just talked about, so much different this season than it was for the majority of last season. The Cowboys offense could legitimately keep up with the Buccaneers offense. And if that happens, then they're going to cover the 9-point spread, and they could even win the game. So I like Cowboys plus 9. If I was betting on this game, I would go Cowboys plus 9. I actually don't hate parlaying some of our player props with Cowboys plus 9. I don't hate that at all. I also, if you have a book that offers it, I like sometimes parlaying touchdown scores with teams winning and their player prop, because all of those things are correlated, right? Like, if, for example, Amari Cooper, you can parlay his touchdown, his over 65.5 receiving yards, and the Cowboys to win, and you're getting like 3x value on things that are very correlated. All three of those things. Yeah. If one of those things comes true, there's a better chance the other two also came true. So I like that. I like that a lot. But I'm not big on parlaying. I think parlaying is the easiest way to just like burn your money on fire. But if I am going to do it, I'm going to try to do it in a correlated fashion. Luke, I want to ask you, we're going to pivot a little bit away from the Cowboys Buccaneers game for a second, because you know how much I've always loved Austin Eckler. And obviously I was very high on him this season. I have been very high on him literally since we've known each other, Luke. I've loved Austin Eckler. He not only does he fit the profile of guy that I just love, because he's small and good at receiving, and like he plays a very physical sport and is still so good at his size, but he's also out of practice yesterday, working on the side with a hamstring injury. He then tweeted afterwards, though, that he's very excited for week 1, and it seems like he's going to play. As of right now, I'm like 90% sure Austin Eckler is going to play in a full workload week 1, but should I be freaking out? Are you freaking out, Luke, about the Eckler news?
I just drafted Austin Eckler in my last league the other night, and I'm not freaking out. I think I went over to his Twitter. He posted that video or that picture of how excited he is. then I saw a Chargers fan talk about how they've been really cautious with players this preseason. So I'm not freaking out at all right now. But when you start, if he misses practice today, maybe it goes up a little bit. But if he misses any game action, if he misses any part of week 1, then I get worried because that's, it's time to go. We're in week 1. They're playing a tough Washington team, that Charger team, tough division. They need all their players healthy if they are healthy. So they need all their players in if they are healthy. So I'm not worried about Eckler right now.
Yeah, I'm with you, Luke. And another guy that was injured for a lot of the preseason that I was concerned about, he had a groin injury the entire preseason, is Deandre Swift. I just read a report this morning. He's at 100%, and they're not going to hold back his workload.
Wait, have you seen the most recent news that kind of came out as we went live?
I might have misspoke if I said most recent because it sounds like
you
have a more recent. How bad?
The fantasy world is kind of freaking out on the Deandre Swift train right now. Literally right before we went.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's a complicated situation. For those who don't know what's going on with Deandre Swift, he may or may not. I don't know anything for sure. Have been involved in a murder case. That's what's being tossed around the fantasy football community right now. People are freaking out about really what they should do, but definitely a story to follow as the day goes on.
That is absolutely horrible news.
Yeah.
And I have not read into this yet, so I will read into it before commenting on it at all, but that's terrible news. And then I also just refreshed my Twitter here, and on top of all that, Luke, Penei Sewell did not practice today with a finger injury. So I mean that's really, really bad too. The Lions offense is so interesting heading into this season. They have the worst wide receiver group that I've personally seen in like my 4 years seriously covering the NFL. I think you'd be very hard pressed to come up with a worse receiving core. And the Pats receivers last season were absolutely atrocious. Yeah. But Jacoby Myers would be the obvious wide receiver 1 on this team. And even like Demir Berg would probably start on this team. They're trotting out with, They somehow cut Rashad Perriman, who they signed this offseason. So they're going out with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Tyrell Williams as their 2 top receivers in week 1. But their offensive line should be good. Penei Sewell is a lock to be a very good left tackle in the NFL. I think we didn't talk about this, but I think the Bengals definitely should have gone with Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase. But the Lions have potentially a top 10 offensive line in the league. They have a bottom 10 quarterback in the league, a bottom 10 receiving group in the league. And then they have DeAndre Swift and TJ Hawkinson. Obviously, we just said there's some very concerning reports coming out about DeAndre Swift outside of his injury concerns. But TJ Hawkinson is the clear number 1 receiver on this team. Like if their offensive line though somehow gets worse and Penei Sewell misses games or other offensive linemen miss games, the Lions aren't going to win a game this entire season. I think the Texans are going to struggle to win a game this season too. I love the Jaguars defense, by the way, in DraftKings and FanDuel this week. Anyone that's asking me about what's it called, survivor pools. I'm not in a survivor pool, but I love survivor pools. I think they're super interesting. I might try to get in one before the end of this week, but I'm just picking against the Lions and the Texans every single week. Why would you not go with the Jaguars in week 1 in your survivor pool? Unless you can't, sometimes you're not allowed to pick the same team twice or pick against the same team twice, in which case you probably shouldn't go with the 49ers this week. But 49ers against the Lions, like there's no chance. There's literally zero chance.
Yeah.
The 49ers get upset by the Detroit Lions in week 1. It'd be so shocking. The 49ers are a top 4 team in the NFL heading into the season. The Lions literally might struggle to win a single game. And the same thing goes with the Texans. Like if the Texans don't win this week against the Jaguars, they're going to be in a tough spot to win until like many weeks down the road. So that's my thoughts on survivor pools. Is there any games this week that you would go other than the 49ers or Jaguars in your survivor pools?
I like the Ravens Monday night against the Raiders, but you could go with the Ravens later on in the season. But you think of that Lions offense, man. I remember in the 32-man league I picked in the 6th round Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I was like, if Rashad Perriman had just been cut, I was like, who else is on that team? I was like, there's got to be someone. I was like, Danny Amendola. I was like, no, he's gone. He actually just signed with the Texans. And there's like, it's TJ Hawkinson. It's like a joke offense. You have Jared Goff. TJ Hawkinson, I think, could be a really good tight end this season just based off the targets he's going to get. Then you get into the other receivers, and it's like, how is this an NFL receiving core? It's absolutely bizarre. And then now it's DeAndre Swift stuff. A lot to learn about it. I mean, Jamal Williams, I'm sure people are already asking questions about that. But I actually have one to go back to this. I thought this was interesting. One TikTok comment. CeeDee Lamb and AB anytime touchdown scorers. What do you think tonight?
I think I would go with CeeDee Lamb. I mean, I like CeeDee Lamb a lot, but I like both. Who would you go with?
I like both of them a lot. The AB hype is really high. CD, I think, could find the end zone tonight. I like both of them, honestly. I think both of them will find it, if I'm being honest. But I thought I answered that one quick because I thought that was interesting. But just trying to think of other matchups. But back to Penei Sewell and the Bengals. What is Jamar Chase? What is going on? He tweeted out that it was misinterpreted, but that's not what he said. He can't. The stripes on the ball and messing it up, and he's not used to the ball, dude. That's just not what you want to hear, like, at all. It's
yeah, it's such a hilarious comment. And by the way, like, that comment changes nothing. This is the thing about the Bengals right now, Luke. And if I'm playing Dynasty, I'm in a couple Dynasty fantasy football leagues. And if I'm in a Dynasty fantasy football league, I am going to see what Jamar Chase costs right now. Jamar Chase was number one in my rookie wide receiver model, although that has been a cursed spot in the past. As you know, Luke, I had N'Keal Harry ranked above A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf in that same model in the past. But Jamar Chase we kind of knew he was going to start slow. He hasn't played football in 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's not that surprising that he's starting slow. And the negative reports out of the Bengals camp, it feels like out of the beat reporters, like, reports, only the Bengals had a bad training camp. Like, that's basically what it sounds like. And that's obviously overblown. It's preseason. It's training camp. You shouldn't read too much into preseason or training camp, just other than, like, who's playing with who and who's starting. Mm-hmm. And, like, how much Corey Davis is getting targeted on every single Zach Wilson attempt. But, like, other than that, there's not that much to learn from the preseason. And certainly Jamar Chase dropping passes in training camp is really not that big of a deal in the long scheme of things. I think he's going to have a very good NFL career. And I think by the second half of this season, he's going to be balling out as at least the number 2 receiver on the Bengals. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what he costs in Dynasty right now for all of these reports. But, yeah, hilarious answer from him. Like, you had 2 years to practice with NFL footballs. What have you been doing in the last 2 years playing with these, like, white striped college side? I didn't even know that college footballs were – did you know that those were NFL footballs?
It's like Ben Simmons refusing to get good at shooting. Like,
God,
just go out and catch 100 NFL balls today. I don't know.
This is bringing me back to the Deflategate PSI conversations. Man, I do not miss those conversations. It's still a football. You're still an NFL first round pick. But Devonta Smith, Luke, I won't be surprised if he gets off to the hottest start of all the rookie wide receivers. I like Rashad Bateman a lot too. Obviously, he's on the IR or PUP list to start the season. He's not going to be playing week 1. Devonta Smith, I've been saying this all offseason. He's the most NFL ready, despite being small. And people really like to like hate on Devonta Smith for his size because we've seen so many small, fast receivers fail in the NFL. We've seen just so many, like, purely fast receivers fail in the first round. It just goes way back, all the way to, like, Ted Ginn Jr. There's so many examples. But Devonta Smith, yes, he's small, but he also is insane at route running. Like, to me, the best comparable for the upside of Devonta Smith's career is Stephon Diggs. He could be a Stephon Diggs type player. He runs routes. He's not as good as Stephon Diggs, obviously. Don't take me out of line here, but he has that upside in his career, and he's stepping into an offense unlike Jamar Chase, where he's the clear number 1 receiver for his team, literally the first snap of the season. And that is very good for fantasy football. I was all in on Devonta Smith this whole offseason. Devonta Smith was my most drafted underdog wide receiver. I drafted him consistently rounds 7, 8, and 9, and I ended up with him in half of my season-long high-stakes leagues as well. I'm very excited to watch him play, and I'm feeling really good about him week 1. But I think as the season goes on, Jamar Chase could definitely overtake Devonta Smith as the top receiver, the top rookie receiver. That won't shock me at all. I got a good question here in the chat about whether or not we talked about this at the beginning, and I want to circle back a little bit. Someone should start Dak Prescott or Jalen Hurts this week. I just talked about why I love Devonta Smith, and he's also going up against the Falcons in week 1. Devonta Smith's a guy, by the way, that, like, I didn't draft him as a starter in any league. Again, I got him round 7, 8, 9. So he wasn't my top 3 receivers. But I want to start Devonta Smith week 1 so badly because the worst thing that I'm going to experience is Devonta Smith on my bench putting up 25 plus fantasy points against the Falcons in week 1. Like, I won't even be surprised if he's got 50 yards and a touchdown in the first half of that game.
Yeah.
But would you start, sorry, going back to my question, I know I'm going in circles a little bit here, Luke, but would you start Jalen Hurts or Dak Prescott in fantasy football in week 1? You drafted Dak before Hurts, but would you be willing to start Hurts before Dak?
I would. I'd start Jalen Hurts over Dak. I think he's going to – don't overthink it. I think he's going to move the ball easily in that game because even if it's Miles Sanders or even we see Boston Scott, they're going to be able to run the ball, and that's going to open up the play action for a deep threat like Devonta Smith. Remember, these two have the Alabama connection, and I love the Stephon Diggs comparison because I think Devonta is that smooth route runner, and he's kind of just like – what's the word? Like silky, if that makes sense. Like Stephon Diggs is just – he's just very slick as a route runner and is just, a reliable target. I think we can see Devonta Smith become that for Jalen Hurts, become that security blanket guy. He's going to look toward him a lot. Like, I mean, he's got no one else to really throw to. They cut Travis Fulgham, which was a head scratcher in my eyes, and they kept J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who I don't know. I think they're still trying to justify that pick. But either way, Jalen Hurts, if they get inside the 5, easily a QB option, rushing touchdown. Like, that's very, very possible for him going against a paper defense in the Falcons. I think easily 10 times out of 10, I'm starting Jalen Hurts over Dak.
Yeah, I'd go Jalen Hurts as well. It's the rushing. It's the rushing for me. There's really very few quarterbacks I'd be starting over Jalen Hurts. I think if you were one of the first 4 people in your league to draft a quarterback, then you should not be starting Jalen Hurts. You have to start Patrick Mahomes. You have to start Kyler Murray. I think you have to start Josh Allen. And I think I'm missing. And you have to start Lamar Jackson. Those are the 4. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen. You have to start them over Jalen Hurts because, like, what were you doing spending such an early pick on those guys if you're not going to do that? Yeah. And I actually have Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts in the same league in one league because Jalen Hurts was sitting there in round 11, and I was very annoyed that nobody had taken him yet because I did spend an early round pick on on Kyler Murray, and I'm just not going to let someone else get that value in my league. So I drafted Jalen Hurts. I actually ended up getting Trey Lance in that league too. I would never draft 2 quarterbacks on team, but I'm like playing defense against these other horrible drafters in this league who were letting Jalen Hurts and Trey Lance fall that far in drafts. But yeah, I would be starting Kyler Murray over Jalen Hurts 100%. I do really want to talk about the other 2 rookie wide receivers though. Luke, I know you're a Cowboys fan. You're also a Jets fan. And Elijah Moore, Jamison Elite Crowder's trending doubtful for week 1. He's on the COVID list as well. Elijah Moore has gotten a lot of hype out of the Jets, but it seems pretty clear to me that Corey Davis is going to be the top guy there. Rondale Moore hasn't got nearly as much hype as Elijah Moore, but Rondale Moore is just as exciting to me, and he's with an even better quarterback. And I won't be surprised if Rondale Moore is the number 2 receiver by the end of the season on the Cardinals.
No, I think
you're liking more. Rondale Moore, Elijah Moore. How are you feeling about these guys heading into the season?
I like both of them. I knocked you in the video for having Rondale Moore as your wide receiver 3. But if AJ Green goes down, which I hate to say, but it will probably happen at some point, Kyler Murray's going to have to throw the ball to someone else. And he hasn't really had that second guy outside of DeAndre Hopkins last year. He didn't have him last year. I mean, that was a pretty one-dimensional offense of Kyler either running or two-dimensional, I guess, and finding DeAndre Hopkins. So I think Rondale Moore, he's going to take advantage of his opportunity when it comes to him, and I love him. But Elijah Moore, I mean, as you mentioned, I am a Jets fan. That's a long story. I get a lot of hate for that. But the hype out of Elijah Moore in camp has been absurd. I mean, he was talking about how he was disrespected being – I'm not sure what number wide receiver he was taking, but he was taken in the second round, which he was not a big fan of. Yeah. He definitely has a chip on his shoulder. And as you mentioned, Corey Davis, I think, is the number 1 receiver in that offense. Just in the couple preseason drives, Zach Wilson was going for him. I think we see that a lot from rookie QBs. They're going to go with now, although he's a new Jet, Davis is a veteran wide receiver. He's a good possession guy. Throwing to him is safe. But Wilson can sling it. And at times, this Jets offense is going to have to open up the field, take some deep shots, and have to move it, have to score some points. And Elijah Moore, I think, is that guy to do that. I'm not really worried about Keelan Cole. I've had some Jet fans mention him. He could be ahead of Elijah Moore. I don't think that's the case. I think we will see Elijah Moore kind of slide in with Crowder there, maybe probably the 3rd option, but 2 as the second wide receiver. I love Elijah Moore. I think he could be. He is that speed guy. So you're not going to get maybe PPR. You're not getting a ton of catches out of him, but he has the opportunity to boom each week.
Yeah, listen, I understand. I like Elijah Moore a lot too, by the way. And the fact that AJ Brown. It's hyping up Elijah Moore, makes me love him even more because I like what AJ Brown says actually does matter to me. I think Elijah Moore is going to be very good, but I expect Corey Davis to be a steal in fantasy leagues, at least at the early part of the season. He was targeted on 75% of his routes in the preseason. Like, I don't read much into the preseason, but that's an insane stat. And if that at all translates, like even a third of that translates to actual games, he's going to be a PPR beast. He's going to score 15 plus fantasy points a game just from the target volume that he sees. But I know you gave me some heat for Rondale Moore being my number 3 receiver in a league where you got to start 3 receivers. But Luke, the guy that I ended up with on every single team that I'm feeling really good about is Bryan Edwards. I'm all aboard the Bryan Edwards hype train this season. I got him for completely free in almost every single draft. I got him later than round 10 or later in every single draft that I was in. I got him as late as round 13 in some drafts. He was not even in the rankings for ESPN or Yahoo or Sleeper. You literally had to search his name to find him, like when drafting on those platforms. It was amazing. It was perfect to get Bryan Edwards. And Bryan Edwards, to me, is the number 1 wide receiver on the Raiders after Darren Waller heading into week 1. I actually rewatched week 17 the other night, and because I was getting excited for the season. Week 17, Luke, you see Bryan Edwards catch a 30-yard touchdown in week 17. You gotta love that heading into this season. Bryan Edwards, to me, his ceiling is 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. Like that's his ceiling. His floor is that he's on the waiver wire in week 3, but like that is fine because I didn't spend that much on him.
You spent a high draft pick on him.
Yeah, and that was my general strategy in that draft. I ended up going 4 running backs earlier than I wanted to, but since I had the 12th overall pick, I like when you're at the beginning or end of the draft, you just know that the next time you pick, there's just going to be this massive drop off in some types of players, and the running back drop off in every draft was just insane. I felt good, basically guaranteeing myself that I won't get totally screwed at the running back position in this league because I have 4 good running backs in that league, but I can't start all 4 of them, and I'm going to have to start Rondale Moore. So we'll see how it works out. It was kind of a risky strategy, but
with Bryan Edwards, I mean, you got to take these comments with a grain of salt. But when Derek Carr said he reminded him of Devontae Adams, that gets you excited because, as you said, it's such a low risk.
Somehow, talking about preseason and how bad the Bengals got it, who got it better than Bryan Edwards? Bryan Edwards got compared to Terrell Owens, Randy Moss, and Devontae Adams within like a 1-week span, and they were like all from different people. Just ridiculous. To mention his name alongside any of those players.
Yeah, I got one question in my live about Bryan Edwards. Should I drop Mike Williams and pick up Bryan Edwards? Wanted him in my draft, but I had too many wide receivers.
Yeah, this is the thing. And this is probably a 10-person league. Even if it's a 12-person league, no, you can't drop Mike Williams for Bryan Edwards. But in 10-team leagues, Bryan Edwards is on the waiver wire in all of those leagues. So be ready to add him after an injury or some player ends up being much worse than we expected. Be ready for Bryan Edwards because Bryan Edwards is not on many people's radar. I'd say the vast majority of people playing fantasy football have never even heard who Bryan Edwards is. So I think that could change very quickly. But I do like Mike Williams more than Bryan Edwards. The Chargers offense is going to be good this season, Luke. It's going to be much better than a season ago. They have much improved offensive line. Justin Herbert's in year 2. Mike Williams fully healthy. Like there's a lot of reasons to like Mike Williams. And Mike Williams also has draft capital that Bryan Edwards doesn't, which does matter.
Yeah. And the new head coach also there. I can't wait for that Chargers offense. That's why I was so excited. You and I both are so excited on Eckler. So we talked about that a little bit before. Hope he. Yeah,
and I do think that. And I also think that like the Chargers are going to experience like a mini Adam Gase effect from losing their coach from a season ago. Yeah. Like he was pretty clearly the second worst coach in the league after Adam Gase. But speaking of the Adam Gase effect is a big reason why I really like the Jets this season to do better than what people expect. I'm not expecting the Jets to all of a sudden like beat this like really good team in the NFL, but I think their over-under is like 6.5 wins this season. I think they go over 6.5 wins. I think that they're going to beat public perception based on just the Adam Gase effect alone. People really like the Jets have had Adam Gase for 2 seasons. People, I think, have forgotten just how bad he is. And the Jets are also like Zach Wilson is better than what Sam Darnold was. And by the way, I think week 1 though could be a tough week for Jets fans because
it will be. I mean,
Sam Darnold's not as good as Zach Wilson. I'd be pretty surprised if like a year from now anyone agrees that Sam Darnold's better than Zach Wilson. But Sam Darnold's in a much better situation than he was last year as well. Like Sam Darnold's also going to benefit from the Adam Gase effect. It's not like this is like a just Adam Gase effect. Darnold's also been playing with Adam Gase for the last 2 years as well. He now gets DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. He has a good connection with Robbie Anderson. Then you add in Christian McCaffrey, by far the best receiving back in the league, arguably the best receiving back we've ever seen in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
And like Darnold could put up 250 and 3 touchdowns against the Jets in week 1. How are you feeling about that week 1 matchup, Panthers versus the Jets?
I think it could get ugly for Jets fans. I mean, because you took the words out of my mouth. The Adam Gase effect, unfortunately, doesn't just apply to the Jets. It applies to everyone that's played under Adam Gase. And, you run through that Miami Dolphins list of guys who played under Adam Gase and then went on to different teams, Ryan Tannehill being the one that comes to my mind the most, go to different teams and become these studs. And, I think it could be rough week 1. The Panthers defense drafting J.C. Horn, I loved that pick. I think their defense needed a huge upgrade. Yeah. Sam Darnold, he's got the pieces. He's got a great offensive coordinator in Joe Brady. You got McCaffrey fully healthy, Darnold's going to be able to throw to him between 5 to 10 times a game. We've seen it. McCaffrey's done it with multiple quarterbacks. DJ Moore, still one of the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL. And that connection with Robbie Anderson, it can't be stated enough how well those two mesh together.
Yeah, Robbie Anderson, somehow back-to-back seasons, he's just heading into the season just so underrated across everything. Fantasy football, player props, like everything is underrating Robbie Anderson heading into week 1. And it's not going to be surprising when Robbie Anderson is a top 10 fantasy wide receiver like through the first few weeks of the season. Like that's he can be a top 10 guy every single week. Like that's his upside every week. He's not going to do it every week, but that's his upside every week. And that's what we saw in the beginning of last season as well. I think he was a top 5 fantasy receiver through like the first month of the season or something crazy like that. That's the ceiling for Robbie Anderson. I like Robbie Anderson a lot, but the Jets are 4-point underdogs against the Panthers. I believe it's in Carolina. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but I like the Panthers with that line. Zach Wilson's first game of his career. And it's going to be so much of Sam Darnold checking down to Christian McCaffrey. Like McCaffrey is going to have such an insane season if he can stay healthy. He has a chance every single week at 100 receiving yards and 100 rushing yards. Like his over under, I think in combined yards is like 160 or like 170. It's just insane. He's going to have such a monster season. It's why he was the consensus number 1 overall pick in fantasy every week. So yeah, I like the Panthers over the Jets in week 1 -4. But we got a question in the chat here about the Titans and the Titans division. I want to talk to you about this division because it is an interesting division this season. Let me see if I can find this comment. I think I got to scroll up a little bit. Here it is. Titans are only -110 to win their division. Is that printing money? That's the question. I like the phrasing of the question as well. Luke, do you see anyone winning? What is it? The AFC South more than the Tennessee Titans?
No, I think the Titans should be the odds-on favorites. I think those odds should be a little better, but not too much higher because this Colts team, I'm pretty sure they split last year, if I'm remembering correctly, and they improved. I mean, and I think they're the most well-coached team in that division. I think I would take Frank Reich over Mike Vrabel, but I think the Titans are the favorites. I think their offense, you lose Corey Davis, then you add Julio Jones, who you put out a video on today. If he can stay healthy, that offense, I mean, you have a 2,000-yard rusher who scored 17 touchdowns last year. A.J. Brown, who was great in the games he did play last year. And then you have Julio Jones. And the defense, yes, it's not great, but the offense, Tannehill is so tailored to that offense. He's got the rushing upside as well. There's just so many different levels of attack within that Titans offense. So, yeah, I would say that is printing money.
Yeah, listen, I'm so excited to watch the Titans this season. I'm so happy that Julio Jones is going to be playing week 1 because like the injury throughout the preseason was concerning. This is the only concern for Julio Jones. This has been the only concern for Julio Jones his entire career. Every time he's on the field, Luke, he's balling out. Like he really has never had a stretch of bad football play in his whole career. He's a clear first ballot Hall of Famer. I think you could argue he's a top 5 wide receiver of all time. That's how good Julio Jones is. Obviously, he's old. He's 32 years old. He's nearing the end of his career. Like the age curve is not on his side. But we shouldn't bet against some of the best players of all time. We've seen Marvin Harrison do it at a very old age. We've seen some of the best players. By the way, Antonio Brown could still do it at a pretty old age. Yeah. And I'm not betting against Antonio Brown either. Antonio Brown had a stretch in his career where he was the best wide receiver in the league for 3 straight seasons, something that you never see in the NFL is someone hold that title for that long. Antonio Brown was on a Marvin Harrison-like track before he went completely off the rails. But I do think that Julio Jones, Luke, could end up being the steal of fantasy football drafts this season. I mean, I shared that stat in the video I posted today. In the games where he had just at least 5 targets, just at least 5. And I would be surprised if he doesn't average over 5 targets a game this season. He's averaged over 5 targets a game his entire career. And if you look at the games where he's getting at least 5 targets, he's going over 110 yards per game. Yep. And the Titans, I think, could pass the ball much more than we expect this season. Like they lost their offensive coordinator, who's now in Atlanta, which is very interesting. And I think that they signaled throwing more by signing Julio Jones. This offense is going to be fun to watch, but the defense is going to be bad. The defense is going to be, I think, a bottom 10 defense in the league, which is why they're going to be so much fun to watch for fantasy football. And it's why I don't think it's printing money that the Titans win this division. I won't be shocked if the Colts can pull it out. I mean, obviously the Texans, they're the worst team in the NFL. I don't think they really have an actual chance. I think that it's a 2-team race between the Colts and the Titans, and the Colts have way more issues than the Titans right now. They have Carson Wentz really didn't play all of preseason, not what you want from a new quarterback just joining the team. He's coming off a foot injury. It's like looking eerily similar to his beginning of the season or like his season last year or last 2 years really with the Eagles. So that's concerning. Quentin Nelson looking questionable or doubtful for week 1, and it's not really clear when he's going to play. That's huge as well for them. But the Colts defense is much better than the Titans defense. Yeah. So I think it could be closer than people think. I think the Colts are generally slept on a little bit. I also am a believer, Luke, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this, that Carson Wentz can turn it around still.
Yes.
We saw Carson Wentz be good. And
100%. As a Cowboys fan, I was ecstatic for him to get out of the division. I thought he was very good at football. I mean, the health issues, it sucks. I mean, there's nothing, you can't really blame one person or another for that. It's just an unfortunate situation. But I don't know why the Eagles just moved off of him so quick. I mean, he went, I remember last year, I think it was week 3 or week 2, he went into San Fran with Travis Fulgham and I think Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. Everyone else was hurt. And they won. They pulled out a win versus what was before all the injuries in San Fran last year was a good Niners team. Like there were plenty of examples of that where Wentz just willed the Eagles team to win. And, the whole Doug Peterson debacle at the end, I was just ecstatic that Wentz honestly was out of the division because I wanted to cheer for him as an Eagle. It's hard, but I think he's in for a huge bounce back year if he could stay healthy. That's the general consensus of most NFL fans because the Colts, Phillip Rivers was somewhat decent last year and he can hardly throw the ball anymore.
There's no reason Carson Wentz can't be better than what Phillip Rivers was last season. There's absolutely no reason. And similar to the talk about the Cowboys and how the context of their season last year, you got to take into account Carson Wentz context too. And I don't want to take all blame away from Carson Wentz. He didn't play well the last 2 years. Like he just didn't play well at all. He was bad at almost everything. But the context was also really bad. Greg Ward, for 2 straight seasons, was his top receiver. And this is also part of the reason I like Jalen Hurts. Like Devonta Smith is such a step above all the other receivers that they had a season ago. And obviously Rieger didn't pan out as rookie. I think he's got at least a chance as a sophomore. But I do think that Carson Wentz finds himself in by far the best situation he's been in the last 3 years. He has Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell. I think both those guys are better than Greg Ward was. And he has Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, who are both very good out of the backfield too, but also the offensive line from the Eagles last season to the Colts this season is as about a big of a leap as you could possibly take. And I think the Eagles, by the way, their offensive line should be improved this season too. They also had a ton of injuries. They have a very old offensive line though, so I'm nervous about the injuries again. But like the offensive line Carson Wentz was playing behind was also bottom 3 in the NFL for most of last season. So he had Greg Ward as his top receiver, and he had a bottom 3 offensive line. Like, what did you expect was going to happen, Eagles fans? And I think Carson Wentz has at least a chance to turn things around. And I do love the Bible narrative as well, Luke. Carson Wentz and Frank Reich very into the dual Bible study together. So I think there's a very good connection there. I do like Carson Wentz as a comeback player this season. That's why I don't think Titans are printing money in that division, but I still think the Titans win the division. That being said. All right, Luke, I want to hear your thoughts on some of these spreads in week 1. And I typically, as anyone that's been watching me and following along with my content for the last 2 years knows, I very rarely bet on spreads, but I do like talking about spreads, and I will put like very small amounts on spreads because I think it's fun, but almost all of my actual money where I'm investing, and I feel like it's more of an investment, it goes into the player props and it goes into fantasy, but in DFS and DraftKings and FanDuel. But I want to talk through some of the spreads. The one that to me is very interesting is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are 6.5-point favorites at home against the Steelers. How are you feeling about the Steelers this season? The thing about week one spreads and why they're so fun is at least half of these spreads, Luke, are going to be so wildly inaccurate. Like the week one spreads are the most inaccurate spreads of the season. If there's 1 week to bet on spreads, it's probably week one. So how are you feeling about the Steelers plus 6.5 against the Buffalo Bills?
I'm getting the sense that we might disagree here. I love the Bills minus 6.5 in this game. I think they're going to come out. Josh Allen's going to continue off of last year. I think he, with his coaching staff and the steps he's taken, he's been consistent. It wasn't like I'm bad, I'm great. It's been I'm bad, I'm decent, I'm great. And now I think he can take another step forward because he was simply phenomenal last year. That starting offense returns. You have Stephon Diggs there. The rushing, people talk about how the Bills can't really rush the ball. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary, they didn't really have to rush the ball last year, and they still made the AFC Championship game. So I think they're in Buffalo, right? Bills Mafia is going to be flying around. It's going to be a crazy, hectic environment. I love the Bills actually at that line and minus 6.5. I think the Steelers, listen, their defense is very good, but I think Allen will be able to move it on them effectively. And Big Ben, he just wasn't good down the stretch last season. He's another year older. Yes, they have Najee Harris, a new running back. It's not going to be Benny Snell, the snail show. It's not going to be something like that. But their offensive line is also horrendous. So I like the Bills minus 6.5.
Yeah, I would stay far, far away from this game. I certainly will not be betting on this spread because I have very little confidence in the Steelers as an entire team heading into the season. I'm worried, like you said, about the offensive line. I do think that there's a better chance than people realize that the Bills take like a massive step back this season. Really? And I know Bills fans are going to absolutely hate me for this. And I don't hate your team, but like I think that's the path to the Patriots winning the division. Isn't even the Patriots like being amazing. I think we kind of have an idea of what the Patriots could be this season. They're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets. They're going to run a lot, and their defense hopefully can keep games close. Like they're not going to be amazing, but the Bills, to me, they have so much farther to go back than forward. The one step forward they could take is Josh Allen being the MVP, and I do think there's a chance of that. I think Josh Allen's really good, and I agree though that the Bills and their play calling has been so encouraging that the last season they were throwing the most in neutral game scripts across the whole league. They were like rivaling the Chiefs in terms of building their offense around their best player, Josh Allen, which I absolutely love when teams are doing this. I think this is like a huge optimal move for NFL teams to do. Like put the ball into your best player's hands. Hopefully your best player is the quarterback because that's the best way to construct teams in the NFL right now. And then just throw the ball. Literally, I don't care if you're up 14 points. Keep running play action and keep throwing the ball. It's by far the most efficient mode of offense. So yeah, I wouldn't go against the Bills in this game. And I think that I would, if I had to choose, I would actually take the Bills. But Steelers plus 6.5. If their defense can be good this season, which they definitely could be very good, this could be the game where it's like, oh wow, are the Patriots really like about to be favorites in the AFC East after week one? If the Bills blow this game and the Patriots do well against the Dolphins in week one, that could literally be a headline after week one. That's a one bold prediction I have, I guess, heading into week one. Headline after week one: Patriots lead AFC East and are now favorites in the AFC East after a tough Josh Allen performance against a good Steelers defense in week one. Yeah, but I would also go with the Bills in this game. All that being said, all right, one more spread, Luke, before I let you go and before we wrap up this stream, guys. I will be back live tonight from around 6:30 to around 8 o'clock. 6:30 to like 7:30, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. I'll probably end the stream like 20 minutes before the game, but that is going to be happening. I'm going to be live, solo live stream tonight, making sure we're ready for Thursday night football. We may or may not get a free player prop in that live stream as well. So make sure you're tuning back in tonight. But Luke, the one spread I am going to bet on this week, because I'm also going to the game, is the New England Patriots. They are 3-point favorites over the Miami Dolphins. It was actually 2.5 when I first bet on it. I enjoy putting just a little bit of money on games where I go to. Like it's just a fun thing to do. But what are you thinking about that spread? Patriots -3 at the Dolphins, because I know you're going to give us a very unbiased opinion. How are you feeling about that spread heading into week one?
I love the Pats at -3. I think they're getting – people forget – I know you obviously don't because you're a Pats fan. How many Pats defensive players took off from COVID last year? It was a decent amount, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
You're getting those players back. And Mac Jones, starting quarterback, the offense is going to be much more explosive than, I think Bill or Josh McDaniels can open up the playbook a little bit more. And Tua, just the reports have been awful. Like, there's nothing encouraging about what's coming out of the Dolphins offense. And Myles Gaskin is not a stud running back. They're not going to be able to depend on the run. I think Bill's going to make this incredibly difficult for Tua. And Miami's defense last year, their turnover ratio was unheard of. They're not going to repeat that. They won games because they were able to take the ball away. And the rate they did it at was unreal. And they're not going to repeat that. I love the Pats at -3 in this game. The Dolphins going 10-6 last year. Listen, they're incredibly well coached. I think it was more of a fluke. Ryan Fitzpatrick won them some games. Tua now is the sole starter. There's no one there. It's Tua or bust. And I'd lean more toward the bust side, but that's a whole season conversation.
Yeah.
This game in particular, I love the Pats at -3.
Yeah, I would personally also lean more towards the bust side, but I think Tua has a better chance of working out than like what is currently being perceived. So many people have already written Tua off. Like, let's give him his second year, a healthy year with much improved weapons too. The rookie we didn't talk about, Jalen Waddle, he's in the conversation as one of the top rookie wide receivers as well. By the way, the young talent infused into the NFL this season, Luke, so exciting. There's so many good receivers and quarterbacks. There's going to be at least three star wide receivers and quarterbacks from this class, and there could be as many as 5 in both positions. Like, that is very exciting to me for fantasy football, for the NFL in general. But yeah, I'd be very surprised if the Patriots don't win this game at home, week 1 against Tua Tagovailoa. I can't say his name. I won't.
Tagovailoa.
I don't watch the games either with the sound on, Luke. You know this. I watch with the sound off, so I can't pronounce anyone's name right. It gets very hard for me. But the Patriots offensive line is the reason I believe in them in week 1 and why I think they have some hope this season. I think they have a top 5 offensive line in the league with Trent Brown back. I think their defense is about to go from, in terms of talent on the roster, bottom 10 in the NFL to top 10 in the NFL. And that's a big leap to take. And a lot of that was injuries and the COVID opt-outs last season. But the Patriots, Luke, were literally playing safeties at linebacker the entire season. It was brutal. And and we always struggled in Miami. There's I would never bet on the Pats in Miami, but this is in New England. But last season when we played the Dolphins, Myles Gaskin and Salvin Ahmed rushed for a combined 200 plus yards against us because we had zero. We didn't even have linebackers on the roster on game day. It was brutal. The defense was brutal. I think the defense will at least be middle of the pack in the league. Hopefully Gilmore comes back soon. He won't be there week 1, but I think the offensive line gives the Patriots a pretty clear advantage over the Dolphins week 1. I'm going with the Pats, and I'm going to the game, so I'm also excited for that. But yeah, I'm going with the Patriots. I'm not going to say it's a lock because it's a spread, and anything can happen in week 1 especially, but I'm also very cautiously optimistic about Mac Jones. We'll end on this because I have a lot of Patriots fans in my circle, as you know, and I've talked to a lot of them, and they're all so excited about Mac Jones. Mac Jones is the future. By the way, the best thing Cam Newton did for the Patriots was the nicknames, Mac and Cheese, Mac Jones, absolute fire nickname. But Mac Jones, can we please see him do it in an actual game? We've seen 3 preseason games, and the vast majority of his preseason time was against backup defenses on defenses whose starters weren't even that good. Can we please just take a deep breath, Patriots Nation, and see what Mac Jones does in an actual game before we get way too far ahead of ourselves and Mac Jones heads out week 1 and just has a horrible performance against the Dolphins. I like what I saw in the preseason, but we got to just take a deep breath and take a step back. And remember, this is the preseason against preseason defenders. We got to see him do it in the real game. Though I got to admit, Luke, I'm very excited that we went with Mac Jones over Cam Newton. I was surprised about the cut, but I'm excited.
No, it was the right choice. Definitely the right choice.
Yeah. Awesome. Luke, thanks for hopping on the live stream, man. It was great to touch base and talk some football. We obviously have a long history of talking football together, so it was a lot of fun. I definitely hope we can hop on a live together at some point this season. Guys, if you're not already following Luke on TikTok, you got to follow him at cowboys.walterpicks. He's been putting out some hilarious and just fire content in general. I really have enjoyed the mix of humor, but also like good strategy advice as well. I think it's been going really well.
Awesome. Yeah, I put out the milk video today. I'm not sure if you saw it. The one I sent you in advance about Zeke eating.
I got it. I have not seen it posted. That's hilarious. So I definitely will go watch that at least 3 times after this live stream. You got to go see Luke's latest video to see the humor side of Luke. Luke has 2 sides. The humor side's been showing really well, but Luke is also one of the sharpest fantasy football minds that I know, and he's been someone I've actually consulted with about fantasy for literally 5 or 6 years now, Luke. So,
yeah, we're approaching a long time. A long time now. Appreciate it.
It's definitely been a long time. Luke, have a good one, man. Thanks for hopping on, and we'll definitely talk soon.
Enjoy week 1, buddy.
I'll be live, guys, right around 6 p.m. Eastern, so about 3.5 hours from now. I'll talk to you then, guys. We'll talk soon. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't hit it yet.